Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at two of my favorite spells out of the player's handbook. And they are Polymorph Self and Shapechange. Why those two spells? Because I like them. I think there's some interesting stuff you can do with those spells. I want to give some insights on how we play those spells in our campaign and why they're personal favorites of mine. My first MU to hit 18th level and be eligible for 9th level spell. Very first spell I had available and took was Shapechange. Big change in our campaign. I'll explain that a little bit too. I'm also going to take a look at the Wand of Polymorph and how that works, and Polymorph other spell as well, but primary focus is going to be on Polymorph Self and Shapechange. I also want to remind everybody I've got a Patreon going for AD&D. It's going to be a serialized dungeon that I am writing. I've never written for anyone else before, so I'm not used to have to write full descriptions of rooms and things like that. So it's taken a little longer than I thought, but that's okay. I plan to be out in sometime in early June anyway. So as of the posting this video, it's going to be out or is real close to being out. So if you're interested, take a look at my Patreon page. Right now I'm not putting a level cap on different things. If you're a patron at all, you would be eligible to get this PDF and to get it serialized. Probably going to be one part a month going forward until I'm done with the serialization. So that's all I've got to say on that. Back to the topic at hand. Polymorph Self and Shapechange from AD&D Player's Handbook on page 121. All right, we're going to start today out with the 4th level spell, Polymorph Self. When I play an MU, I always take a Polymorph Self as part of my repertoire. It's just a useful spell. There we go. Polymorph Self right here. It's a 4th level spell, so you have to be 9th level to get it in AD&D. It lasts 2 turns per level, which if I'm 9th level, that means 18 turns, which is pretty sweet. That's 3 hours. It takes me only 3 segments to cast it. When it's cast, the MU is able to assume the form of any creature from as small as a wren to as large as a hippopotamus. We actually hold to that. You can't turn into a bug or any tiny little thing with the Polymorph Self, and you can't turn into a whale or anything with the Polymorph Self. It gets you between a wren and hippopotamus in our game. And the form of locomotion as well. So if you turn into a wren, you fly with wings. Maybe not skillfully. You run the risk of assuming, the spell does not run the risk of assuming the personalities as Polymorph Other does, and no system shock check is required. Thus, an MU could turn into an owl, could fly, but his or her vision would be human. A change to a black pudding would enable the movement under the doors and along walls and ceilings, but not the pudding's offensive or defensive capabilities. The strength of the new form must be sufficient to allow normal movement, which means if you take an ogre, for instance, you would have greater strength. We've ruled that. Ogre would certainly fall around the size of a hippopotamus, even a troll, but you don't get the troll's regen. You can disguise yourself as an ogre to blend in with other ogres because you're actually changing into an ogre. Problem is, you won't smell like an ogre. The other ogres are probably going to notice that. We had that happen in our game. You can change form, and it takes 5 segments. You can change, we allow once a round, and each time you return, you change to your own form, you gain 1 to 12 points of damage as healing. That's pretty nice. An MU spell that actually gives a healing component. 1 to 12, we were having this abused beyond belief. People would take this just as a backup healing spell. Toward the end of the day, they'd go ahead and they'd cast it, and then they would just change back and forth until they were back to full. We put a cap of 3 changes. So if I put that in the Earth's Opus Omnibus that I wrote up a few years ago, and our max cap of changes to your person that heal is 3. You can turn back to your person, your normal self, anytime you want, as many times as you want. You'll only heal the first 3 times you do it. But otherwise, you're free to change shape through the entire duration of the spell. We also do not let these spells just suddenly run out. You're flying as a crow and you're 1,000 feet up, and suddenly the spell expires, and now you fall to your death. We don't do that. You get a tingling, a sense the spell is wearing off, usually with enough time, almost always with enough time, for you to get to a place of safety before the spell wears off. We do the same thing with the fly spell. Again, that whole DM versus player flavor that a lot of these books have, we've taken out and made it a little more player-friendly. We had players who were terrified to use a fly spell for more than the first half hour or so, because after that, they didn't know when it was going to wear off. So we changed that. So, Polymorph Self, great spell, very useful. We do not allow you to assume the form of an actual person. If I want to look like, Mayor Burgermeister of the village, I can't with Polymorph Self. I can turn into a human. I can look kind of like him, but I can't look exactly like him. It doesn't let me do that. So, those are some of the limits we put on Polymorph Self, but still a tremendously useful spell. Then, just a quick look at its cousin, Polymorph Other. Polymorph Other is really nice. It lets you take a creature and turn it into something else. They have to survive a system shock. If it survives, they've been polymorphed. They have a great percentage chance of assuming the personality and mentality of what they've been turned into. So if you were to turn a human into a walrus, there's a percentage chance that he would start assuming the form of the actual mentality and think he was a real walrus. If you turn him into a wolf, there would be a chance, and it's a pretty good chance, and it goes over time as well, that he would actually become a wolf in actuality. So this is a good spell if you want to take somebody out of a fight. You've got that big, tough fighter. He's really giving the party a hard time with his strength and everything. Well, you hit him with a Polymorph Other. He gets a saving throw. If he blows the saving throw, then you just turn him into, I don't care, turn him into a bunny. Now, according to the write-up, he'll be a bunny with all his hit points left, but a bunny nonetheless. So it's kind of interesting. Here they have the description. A mummy is changed to a puppy dog would be very tough. A brontosaurus changed into an ant would be impossible to squash merely from being stepped on by a small creature or even a man-sized one. So that's kind of neat. Dispel Magic takes this off. So if you Polymorph Other, you have a creature that's really injured, he's lost a limb, you could polymorph him back to a facsimile of his own form. Again, you cannot do an actual exact form. So if my player character lost a limb, say his right arm due to a sword of sharpness, you could actually use Polymorph Other to turn me into, if I was a human, to turn me into still a human with all my limbs, and I eventually would think like a human and everything. Well, my chance of doing that is really good anyway, because that's still my native form. I would just look different. I wouldn't be quite the same looking, but I would have both my arms. The bad news is if I ever got hit by Dispel Magic or an anti-magic field or anything like that, I would actually revert to my true form, which is the guy who lost his right arm. So we did have it used like that in a campaign. Actually, it's been used like that a couple of times in our various campaigns as a quick form of regeneration. And then we've gotten the person to a cleric and then taken the Spell Magic, knocked the Polymorph Other spell off, and then the cleric regrew the limb. So it's a good temporary way to take care of that kind of problem. It's also a great way to turn that tough fighter into a puppy dog. Now we're going to take a look at My Buddy Shapechange. This is a very powerful spell. One of the most powerful in the entire game. You always take Wish out of that conversation because Wish is ridiculously powerful. But Shapechange is kind of in the team photo. With this spell, which takes 9 segments to cast and lasts 1 turn per level, considering you have to be 18th level to gain this power, that's 18 turns, again, 3 hours. We have 3 hours. You are able to assume the form of any creature short of a demigod, greater devil, demon prince, or a singular dragon. So you couldn't become Tiamat or Bahamut, greater demon, or the like. But you could turn into a huge red dragon or an ancient red dragon. The spellcaster becomes the creature he or she wishes and has all the abilities, save those dependent on intelligence, for the mind of the creatures that is spellcaster. That if you change into a griffin, and then to an Efreet, and then to a titan, you can do all that. When you turned into the titan, you would not have the spellcasting ability of the titan. When you turned into an ancient red dragon, you'd have the breath weapon and the armor class, and we also rule the saving throw because we use the 2nd edition dragons. But you would not have the ability to cast spells, which you have your own anyway, so probably you don't need them. Each alteration takes 1 second, no system shock required. And here are the examples, and these are important to what we extrapolated for this spell for our game. A wizard in combat assumes the form of a will-o-wisp, and when this form is no longer useful, the wizard changes into a stone golem and walks away. When pursued, the golem shape is changed to that of a flea, which hides upon a horse until it can hop off and become a bush. If detected as the bush, the magic user can become a dragon, pool of water, or just about anything else. It costs 5,000 gold piece material component, a jade circlet, to cast this, and it's left in the wake of the shape change, and premature shattering will cause the magic to be dispelled. That's ambivalent at best. It's left in the wake of the shape change. That implies that that circlet does not change with you. The way we've rolled around it is you just make sure that a trusted friend has that circlet with him. And if it gets crushed, you just lose the spell. So it's not a big deal. You haven't shunted any part of you into the circlet. But still, you just give that to a trusted companion, have them carry it around for the duration of the spell. And it will shatter at the expiration of the magic's duration. So you just want to be sure that that guy can, toss it so it doesn't go off in his pocket like a little baby grenade. With shape change, we do allow you to turn into Mayor Burgermeister with shape change. You can turn into him exactly. You look and sound just like him. Again, no smell component. So if you turn into a ghoul, you're not going to smell like a ghoul. You're going to smell like you always smell. There are arguments for and against that. If I turned into a dragon, why wouldn't I smell like a dragon? Well, there are arguments for and against it. I listen. I'm still kind of stuck because it doesn't say anything about smell. But as one of my players pointed out, it doesn't say that you don't assume the smell. So for that argument, and it is a 9th level spell that you have to be 18th level to cast, very often I'll let you go ahead and assume the smell of the creature as well, thus completing your entire disguise. So shape change is just a tremendous way to infiltrate any kind of area because you can turn into something that belongs there. You can turn to a will-o-wisp and wisp your way through it. All kinds of stuff. Interestingly, one of the players in our campaign, and I won't name names, it was me. We were in a dungeon. I had just turned to 18th level with one of my favorite characters, Magus Stormcrow. Yeah, from Gandalf. And old Stormcrow was the last man standing. The rest of the party was down. We had quite a crew of bad guys coming down a hallway. And I was the last guy up. I had used up a lot of my spells and a lot of my expendable magic for the day. We were in a pretty tight spot. I had shape change. I had time because reasons of them, I obstructed them getting down the hallway. So I had time to enact the shape change, so I did. And the DM said, okay, they're bursting through. I think I put up a couple of layers of web. And the DM said, okay, they're bursting through the web. What do you do? And I was really stuck because it was a confined area, so I couldn't turn it into a dragon and gain the breath weapon or anything. And then I thought about turning into, in the spell description, a bush or a puddle of water. And I said, oh, I turn into a bolt of lightning. And he kind of looked at me for a moment, and I said, I turn into a sentient bolt of lightning. I zap down the hallway, and I just keep going back and forth at the speed of light, just about, a little under the speed of light, and I'll just destroy them all. Well, he was in a good mood. It was the end of the night. We played a good game. All the players were on board. The bolt of lightning got a great laugh. He allowed it. I appreciated the heck out of it. He treated it as kind of a chain lightning situation where I lost a little bit of energy as I went through. He could have found many ways to stick me on that. He could have said that I hit a grounding surface and now I'm grounded and dissipated in the ground. It could take me months to recalibrate, but while I'm regrouping myself, but while I'm regrouping, the spell expires and I'm just spread throughout the ground and I'm dead. He could have easily done that. He was amused by the idea. He liked the innovation of the idea, so he said, yeah, I'll allow it. But we have a rule at our table. When anybody comes up with anything weird like that probably shouldn't be allowed, but is because it's funny or clever, we'll allow it once. But we won't allow it again going forward. So at our table, no one can ever shape change into a bolt of lightning again. You also can't change into a fireball or a vat of acid or anything like that. So those things we took out as an extrapolation of the lightning bolt. So I was the only one that got to do it in our campaign, but that was a long-standing rule. That rule goes back to the early 80s for us about clever ideas. We didn't want everybody who got shape change just turning into a lightning bolt and ending the dungeon. So we've always put that kind of rule in. If you find a clever workaround on a spell, we'll generally allow it the first time, and after that, then we'll say, okay, no more. So the DM was very generous to me when I did the shape change to a lightning bolt. There were a lot of ways he could have stuck it to me, but he chose not to. The DM was Craig. Thank you, Craig. I enjoyed that game immensely, and enough that I'm still talking about it. That game was probably 20 years ago, and as I say, it got a big laugh at the table and saved us too, so that was a lot of fun. So now I'm going to take a look at the the Wand of Polymorphing from the DMG. All right, our good friend, the Dungeon Master's Guide. We're going to take a look at the Wand of Polymorphing. Wands have between generally 1 and 99 charges. A wand can be found without charges as long as the wand itself is rechargeable. So we take a look at the wand of polymorphing. It shoots a green beam, a thin ray which darts forth to a maximum distance of 6 inches, which is 60 feet. If the beam touches any creature, the creature must make a saving throw versus wands. Not spells, wands. There can be a big difference for the saving matrix. It's much easier to save versus wands. Success indicating a miss. We don't allow the beam to travel onto the guy standing behind him. If he saves, the beam is wasted. Or be polymorphed other as the spell of the same name. The wand wielder may opt to form the victim into a snail, frog, insect, etc., as long as the result is a small and inoffensive creature. So you can't use this to turn somebody into a wyvern and then fly on their back. That's kind of neat too, because it keeps you from being able to abuse this magic item. And this is one of the times that I think in game balance it's important. The wand wielder may opt to form, they may also, unwilling targets get the saving throw, or you can use it as a touch thing. An unwilling target would get a saving throw versus wands again. The recipient is surrounded by dancing motes of sprinkling emerald light, and then transforms into whatever creature shape the wand wielder has stated. This is the same magical effect as the Polymorph Self. Either function takes 3 segments. Each draws 1 charge. Only 1 function per round is possible, and the wand may be recharged. So then the next question becomes, the wand of polymorphing is, can I use it on myself? And the answer is yes, we absolutely allow it, and I think the write-up actually says that it implies strongly that you can. You can turn into whatever creature shape the wand wielder has stated, and it is the same as a Polymorph Self spell. And so basically, you could use it on yourself as a Polymorph Self, no system shock needed, no mentality adjustment, and you'd be able to shift forms and heal up to 3 times for 1d12 per heal, all off of this wand. So wand of polymorphing is just a tremendous magic item. Very undervalued. I've given out a number of these over 40 plus years of gaming, and I've always felt that the people that get them, they read it, but I don't think really appreciate what the wand gives. So I'm going to take a look at one other magic item, and actually just an aspect of that magic item. And it's going to be the robes of the Archmagi, which are ridiculously powerful. I love the robes of the Archmagi. Right here. What I want to look at is you get 5% MR, which is always good too, +1 to saving throw, and armor class equal to 5, just wearing the robes. The robe reduces magic resistance and or saving throws by 20% or -4, which is the same difference, when the wearer casts the following spells: Charm Monster, Charm Person, Friends, Hold Monster, Hold Person, Polymorph Other, or Suggestion. That makes the robe of the Archmagi tremendously important if you're going to use Polymorph Other on somebody else, because automatically the saving throw is -4. When you get to multi-hit dice creatures, a 10th level fighter, that kind of thing, you're only looking at a 12 usually. They're about somewhere in that neighborhood for the saving throw versus, and this has to be a personal spell, not the wand. But usually it's around a 12, maybe even as low as a 10, depending on the level. Monsters are even a little bit better. That -4 becomes a big game changer. It gives you a 20% greater window for success for casting that spell on your target. So Robe of the Archmagi in conjunction with the Polymorph Other spell, fabulous thing. Oddly enough, if you put it with a Hold Monster or Hold Person and do a single target, Hold Monster has a -3 aspect to it if you're targeting 1 creature. So with the robes, that's a cumulative -7, and we do allow those to stack at our table. So it's pretty powerful ways to stack up some negatives on a saving throw, and ways you can manipulate some of the magic items you might get through a little bit of research. So that's really all I wanted to say today about the Polymorph spell, the Shapechange, the wand. I just think that those are just really nice things. They're some of the stuff that really I love about playing D&D, the magic of it, that you can turn into something else and then do it again and again. I just think it's kind of neat. You're going into that big final battle, hitting yourself with a Polymorph Self before you go into that final battle can be a big game changer for you. If nothing else, you can get the heck out of Dodge quick as a wren, just fly away. So that's just my take on it. If you have any experiences with these spells, and negative or positive, let me know. If you have any comments otherwise, please let me know. Polite criticisms, always welcome. And that's all I've got to say today for page 121. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.